I was a doctor for 10 years. My autistic son taught me these 5 life-changing lessons. As a doctor, I was trained to diagnose and treat. I thought I understood the clinical definition of autism, but nothing, not my 10 years in military medicine nor any textbook, could have prepared me for the profound education I would receive from my son, Zayan. For a decade, my career was my identity. Then Zayan's diagnosis changed everything, and I left that life behind to become his full-time mother. I realized my most profound education was just beginning, one that has taught me more than I ever thought possible. These are the 5 most surprising and life-changing lessons I've learned by moving beyond medical theory and into the beautiful, messy reality of raising my neurodiverse child. 1. Your gut feeling is more powerful than you think. As a doctor, I was trained to trust clinical signs, but as a mother, I learned to trust a different kind of data, my intuition. My gut told me that what I was seeing in Zayan was more than just developmental delays from his premature birth. The signs were persistent, creating an unsettling feeling I couldn't ignore. He would line up his toys in perfect rigid rows instead of playing with them. Simple tasks like brushing his teeth became overwhelming sensory battles. His distress was so pure that his teeth began to decay because I felt powerless to help him overcome it. He couldn't hold a spoon, refused to touch his food, and at the playground, he was a solitary figure, lost in his own world. The tantrums came like sudden storms, not acts of defiance, but heartbreaking outbursts from a little boy who couldn't communicate his needs. Each meltdown broke me a little more. I watched as the wreckage piled up around me, broken objects, broken moments, and pieces of my heart. Despite my medical training, it was the unwavering, instinctual voice of a mother that pushed me to advocate for him and finally put the puzzle together. 2. A diagnosis isn't an ending, it's a starting point. Many people assume an autism diagnosis is met with grief. For me, it was the opposite. I remember sitting in a busy pediatric clinic at Hospital Ampang for a routine checkup, my heart pounding. I looked at the senior medical officer and said bluntly, "I think my son is autistic." I then listed every behavior I had meticulously observed: the toy lining, the sensory issues, the tantrums born of frustration. She listened, and within 10 minutes, she was filling out the form for a disability card. That same week, it arrived. Instead of the shock I was supposed to feel, what washed over me was an overwhelming sense of relief. The diagnosis didn't weigh me down, it set me free. It freed me from the burden of uncertainty, from questioning my instincts, and from waiting for something that wasn't going to happen. The diagnosis wasn't a burden, it was a key, unlocking a new path for us. 3. Sometimes you have to leave a life you love to build one you need. Leaving my 10-year career in military medicine was the hardest decision of my life. To say that I loved my career would be an understatement. I loved it so deeply, sometimes even more than I loved being a mother. That might sound extreme, but it's the truth. The military was my second family, a community that embraced me and even helped care for Zayan. During the pandemic, with childcare centers closed, paramedics would look after him in a special room at the clinic while I worked on the front lines. That's how committed I was, but I was completely burned out from juggling the pandemic, Zayan's diagnosis, and a demanding career while my husband was overseas. I knew I couldn't do it alone. So, I left everything: my career, my home, my community, and moved to the United States to reunite our family. I grieved for the identity I left behind, but through a process of what I can only call radical acceptance, I embraced my new role. While the grief of leaving my career was real, the space it created allowed for a different kind of education, one where I was no longer the doctor, but the student. 4. Let your child be your teacher. Raising Zayan has been the most profound education of my life. He has transformed me into a version of myself I never knew existed. Because of him, I have become a detective mom, learning to piece together every sound and gesture to understand his world. I've become a lifelong learner, constantly researching new strategies to support him. Most importantly, I've learned resilience by navigating his sensory needs, like his deep craving for pressure hugs that help him feel grounded and safe. Instead of just being flexible, I've learned to truly follow his lead, entering his world and learning to play in his way. This shift from leader to follower has been revolutionary. It taught me that my role isn't to change him or make him fit into a world that wasn't designed for him, but to help him thrive as the incredible, remarkable boy he already is. One of the most important lessons I've learned is to let Zayan be my teacher. Instead of always trying to lead him, I've started to follow his lead. 5. A voice can be found in many ways. Zayan's path to communication has been a powerful lesson in itself. He was nonverbal until he was 5 years old, communicating through gestures and expressions. At age 6, we introduced an AAC, augmentative and alternative communication, device, an iPad app that could speak for him. We were hopeful it would become his voice. The device was an interesting tool, but a surprising thing happened. After about a year of using it, his own verbal communication began to blossom independently. He started with phrases he'd memorized, then began expressing his own unique thoughts. Soon my heart swelled as I heard him sharing compliments, asking questions, and even wishing me a happy Mother's Day. Those words didn't come from the device, they came from him. The AAC had served its purpose not as a permanent voice, but as a stepping stone. It boosted his confidence and reduced his frustration, creating a bridge that allowed his own verbal language to emerge. This journey has reshaped my understanding of strength, love, and purpose. It has been a path of unexpected growth, profound lessons, and a love deeper than I ever imagined. It leads me to wonder, what are the unexpected lessons our children have taught us about life, love, and ourselves? Every child's journey is unique, and in sharing our stories, we learn we don't have to walk it alone.